What does a flashing red traffic light mean? Stop, then proceed when safe. It functions like a stop sign. You must come to a full stop before moving on. Let's continue. When must you use headlights in Massachusetts? From 30 minutes after sunset to 30 minutes before sunrise, headlights improve visibility during low light periods. Moving on. What is the legal BA limit for drivers under 21? 0.00% Massachusetts enforces a zero tolerance policy for under 21 drivers. Here's another. When approaching a school bus with flashing red lights, you must stop and remain stopped until the lights stop flashing. This protects children boarding or leaving the bus on both sides of an undivided road. Up next, what does a yellow diamond-shaped sign indicate? Warning. Diamond signs alert you to upcoming hazards or changes in road conditions. Onwards, when driving in fog, you should use low beam headlights. Low beams prevent glare that high beams create in fog. Keep going. What is the minimum following distance under ideal conditions? 3 seconds. This gap gives enough reaction time if the vehicle ahead stops suddenly. Let's go on. When entering a highway from an entrance ramp, you should accelerate to match the speed of traffic. Merging at similar speeds reduces the risk of collisions. Next up, what does a solid white line on the road signify? Do not change lanes. Solid white lines discourage lane changes in areas where it's unsafe. Moving forward, before changing lanes, you should check mirrors and blind spots. Verifying all areas are clear prevents cutting off other vehicles. Here's one. What is the speed limit in a school zone during school hours? 20 miles per hour. Reduced speeds keep children safer around schools. Now this, when approaching a yield sign, you must slow down and yield to traffic. If necessary, stop to let oncoming vehicles or pedestrians pass. Next question. What should you do if your vehicle starts to skid? Turn in the direction of the skid. Steering into the skid helps you regain traction and control. Let's continue. When is it legal to turn right on red in Massachusetts? After a complete stop, and if no sign prohibits it, always check for oncoming traffic and pedestrians before turning. Here's another. What does a red octagon-shaped sign mean? Stop. The octagon shape is uniquely reserved for stop signs. Keep this in mind. How far must you park from a fire hydrant? At least 10 feet. This clearance ensures firefighters have room to connect hoses. Moving on, what is the penalty for a first offense OUI operating under the influence? License suspension. Penalties can include fines, suspension, and mandatory education programs. Up next, when must you signal before making a turn, at least 100 feet before the turn? Early signaling alerts other road users to your intention. Here's one. What does a green traffic light indicate? Proceed if the intersection is clear. Always check for cross traffic and pedestrians before moving. Continuing, when driving behind a motorcycle, you should maintain a greater following distance. Motorcycles can stop more quickly and are less visible than cars. Now for this. What is the hand signal for a left turn? Left arm extended straight out. This straight arm signal clearly indicates a left turn to other drivers. Let's keep going. What should you do when you see a pedestrian with a white cane? Stop and yield the right-of-way. Visually impaired pedestrians always have priority. Time for another. When is it legal to pass another vehicle on the right? When the vehicle is making a left turn. You may pass on the right if there's room and it's safe. Moving ahead, what does a double solid yellow line indicate? No passing in either direction. Neither side of the roadway may cross for passing. Next up, how should you react to an emergency vehicle with flashing lights? Pull over to the right and stop. This clears the way and lets emergency responders pass safely. Here's another. What is the speed limit in a thickly settled district? 30 miles per hour. Areas with closely spaced buildings and driveways require lower speeds. Onwards, when approaching a railroad crossing with flashing lights, you must stop and wait until the lights stop flashing. Flashing lights indicate a train is approaching. Keep going. What does a triangular red and white sign indicate? Yield. You must slow and give way to cross traffic if necessary. Next question. When driving at night, you should dim your high beams when within 500 feet of an oncoming vehicle. Dimming prevents blinding other drivers on the road. Here's one. What is the penalty for texting while driving? Fine and possible license suspension. Texting laws aim to reduce distracted driving crashes. Continuing. When must you stop for a school bus? When its red lights are flashing, stopping protects children as they board or exit the bus. Now consider, what does a circular yellow sign with an X and RR indicate? Railroad crossing ahead. This warns you to look for trains and be prepared to stop. Let's go on. What should you do if you miss your exit on the highway? Continue to the next exit. Never back up or stop on an interstate. Next up, what is the minimum age to obtain a learner's permit in Massachusetts? 16 years old. At 16, you may hold a learner's permit under state guidelines. Here's another. When approaching a rotary roundabout, you must yield to traffic already in the rotary, enter only when there's a safe gap. Time for this. What does a white rectangular sign with black letters indicate? Regulatory information. These signs state speed limits, turn rules, and other laws. Moving ahead, when is it legal to use a cell phone while driving? Only with a hands-free device. Massachusetts bans handheld phone use while operating a vehicle. On to the next. What is the penalty for not wearing a seatbelt? Fine seatbelt enforcement is a primary law to improve safety. Let's continue. When driving in rain, you should use low-beam headlights. Low beams improve visibility without excessive glare. Here's one. What does a pentagon-shaped sign indicate? School zone. It marks areas where children frequently cross streets. Up next, when should you use your parking lights? When parked on the side of the road. Parking lights help others see your stationary vehicle. Continuing, what is the implied consent law? Agreement to submit to chemical testing. By driving, you consent to breath, blood, or urine tests when arrested for OUI. Now this, when are road surfaces most slippery? Immediately after it starts to rain, oil and debris on the road combine with fresh rain to create slickness. Next question, what should you do if your brakes fail? Pump the brakes and shift to a lower gear. Multiple braking methods help slow the vehicle safely. Here's another. What does a blue road sign indicate? Motorist services. These signs guide you to rest areas, food, gas, and hospitals. Moving forward, when is it legal to drive below the minimum speed limit? In hazardous conditions, safety justifies driving slower than the posted minimum. Onwards, what is the purpose of a shared center lane? Left turns only. It allows vehicles from either direction to make left turns safely. Keep going. When approaching a pedestrian crosswalk without signals, you must yield to pedestrians. Pedestrians always have right-of-way in crosswalks. Next up, what does a broken white line on the road signify? Lane changes permitted. You may change lanes when it is safe to do so. Here's one. When should you use your horn? To warn others of danger, use it sparingly to alert others to avoid collisions.